It's not what you say, but how you say it. Many of us have heard this phrase before, but I want to see if I can add some new meaning to it by adding the specific phrase. It's not just how you say it, but why you say it. And this is a lesson that Korach from the Torah can teach us. So to understand Korach and his rebellion against Moshe, which was quashed, and ultimately the ground, the earth itself, opened up and swallowed him and his family, we have to go back a little earlier in the Torah where Hashem said something to Moshe to tell to the whole people. In creating the relationship between God and his people, he wanted them to know that they weren't just regular people. They weren't peasants. They weren't plebeians. They were something special and unique. So if we look in the book of Shemot, the 19th chapter, the 6th verse, it says, Ve'atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim, and you will be to me a kingdom, a mamlechet of kohanim, of priests. And God here isn't talking just to the Levim, just to the priestly class. He's saying the entire nation of Israel, which means every single Jew today. In God's eyes, we are all priests. The word kohen might be connected to the word to serve. It is not just the priests themselves, the Levi'im, who serve in the Beit HaMikdash, God willing, which will be rebuilt soon. It's the responsibility of every Yid to connect to Hashem and to serve Hashem in their own way. And Hashem continues, Vegoy Kadosh, and a holy nation. Every single person in the entire nation is unique and special to Hashem. They all have a role to play. They all matter. These are the words that were ringing, echoing in the ears of Korach when he stood up before Moshe to ask a question that on the surface of it seems quite reasonable, because remember the power structure here. Moshe and Aharon were in charge of everything. The Mishkan, the tabernacle that would become the Beit HaMikdash, all of the decisions, legal decisions. Moshe was the conduit between Hashem and the people. Even though Hashem had tried to speak to the people at Har Sinai and they said, no, Moshe, you do it. Ultimately, if they wanted to access God directly, they believed that the only way to do so was through Moshe and Aharon. And this led to the moment where Korach, who was of the priestly class of the family of Levi, who would be able to access Hashem in the Mishkan and in the temple, his descendants, he gathered up a few hundred people, and not just rabble-rousers, respected people, leaders among their community. And he brought this challenge against Moshe. He said to Moshe, Rav Lechem, it is too much for you. It's too heavy a burden for you, which, by the way, is not so different from what Yitro, Moshe's father-in-law, had said to him. He said to him, it's too much for you to do all of the judging. You have to set up courts and representatives. Yitro said it. He said it with kindness and respect and with love. And he said it because he really wanted to help Moshe. But let's see what Korach is really getting at here. Rav Lechem, it's too much for you to be the sole leader of the people. Ki chol ha'edah kulam kadoshim, because the entire tribe, all of our people are kedoshim, which God had said to us in Shemot and said to us in the parasha of kedoshim to you, you should be holy. God has said over and again, you're all holy, you're all special, not just Moshe. This is true. This is a valid thing for him to say, but where does he go with it? Uvetocham Hashem, and God is amongst all of us, no question. Everyone should have the opportunity to access Hashem. Umadua titnaseu al kahal Hashem. And why is it, Korach asks, that you lift yourself up, do you elevate yourself over the assembly of Hashem, over the whole congregation? So he started with a valid thing. Moshe, it's too much for one man to lead us. That's true. Moshe is an incredible Navi, a prophet, a leader, but he's a human. And all of us are holy. All of us should be able to help and be part of this. So why are you at the head? So we see here an important shift. Korach began by asking a reasonable question or noticing something true. Moshe needed help. And everyone should be able to help him. But instead of Korach then saying, can we all help you? Can we join you? He said, what are you? Who made you king? How dare you be in charge of all of us? So was Korach trying to help Moshe, or was he trying to get rid of Moshe and take his job? Now, not being there at that time, we can't get inside of Korach's head, although the fact that he gathered hundreds of people and approached Moshe seems pretty clear that he was trying to have a hostile takeover. And the rabbis see this clearly as an example of a legitimate argument that has some basis in fact, but there's something wrong about it. There's something about the way that Korach said it, about his intentions, the why, that led to it being an argument. That was the phrase they'll use, lo l'shem shemaim, not for the sake of heaven. And if we look in the Mishnah, the 3rd century compilation of rabbinic laws and wisdom, in a section known as Pirkei Avot, the chapters of the fathers, ethics of the fathers, we look at this beautiful Mishnah. Kol machloket shehi l'shem shemaim. Every argument that is for the sake of heaven, for the sake of something greater, for the right reasons, sofa lehitkayem. In the end, it's going to last forever. If somebody has a debate and it's based on good, positive merits, people will be learning it and debating it and appreciating the people who made those arguments forever. V'she'ena l'shem shemaim, and those that are not for the sake of heaven, in sofa lehitkayem. It'll be forgotten. People are going to ignore it and say that was a bad argument. Even if it was valid, the way it was given over, let's not waste our time with it, let's forget it. But they bring examples. Ezohi machloket shehi l'shem shemaim. So what's one that is for the sake of heaven? The machloket Hillel v'Shammai. The machloket between the 2 great rabbis, Hillel and Shammai, and presumably the academy schools they started as well. But what's v'she'ena l'shem shemaim, one that's not for the sake of heaven? Zo machloket Korach v'chol adato. So one not for the sake of heaven is the one for Korach. And the reason is because Korach wasn't arguing with Moshe for the sake of connecting the people to Hashem. He wasn't trying to better and help Moshe. He was doing it for selfish, vain, egotistical reasons. He wasn't thinking about himself, and because of that, his arguments fell on deaf ears, even though Moshe himself fell on his face, but his arguments failed. But Hillel and Shammai, does this mean that when they argued, one of them was right and one of them was wrong? Well, there's a story in the Gemara in Eruvin that a heavenly voice, a bat kol, comes down and says that both of them have valid arguments. Both of them are saying, at least in the ritual, spiritual sphere, things that are true. Perhaps scientifically we could say, well, one side is wrong, one side is right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about arguments about what's right and wrong, ethical, moral things between people, or ritual things and law. And the voice says that both, Elu ve'elu, both of these are the words of the living God. But we follow Hillel in his school. Why? Because when Hillel would argue with Shammai, the first thing he would say is not, listen to me because I want to hear my own voice and I know I'm right. He said, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to validate you. I want to hear your words, and perhaps you might even be able to sway me and change my mind, but I'm open to you. I actually want to have a conversation with you because this isn't about me. This isn't about Hillel. This is L'Shem Shemaim. This is about figuring out the best way to lead our people. And then when he finally said, may I share my words, Hillel would share them with kindness, with respect, with grace in his words. And because of that, it almost doesn't matter who was right, because the way that Hillel shared his words, everyone would want to listen to him. Everyone would be more open to listening to him. So we should think about that. In our relationships with people, when we argue, and we do, and there's a right way to argue and a wrong way. When we're arguing the wrong way, we have to ask ourselves, why am I arguing? Just to prove myself right? Think about how many bar fights. It doesn't matter if someone could Google and find the right answer in a second. People just want to fight. People just enjoy the thrill of arguing. Now, debate club is a safe place to do that, but when it creates conflict between people, what's the point of it? So arguments where the only point is vanity, where it's about ego, those are wasted arguments. They only hurt other people. But arguments where they're for the greater good, not only is it more likely that people will say it with kindness and they'll be more willing to hear others, but other people are more willing to listen. And this is an incredible lesson for all leaders. It doesn't matter if you're right. It matters both how you say it and why you say it. So the next time you know, I'm right, I know this baseball statistic, I know what the political future of my people should be, I know what should happen in this relationship. Think about it. It doesn't really matter if you're right or wrong. Think about, why are you arguing with the other person? And if it's because you just love to be right, don't bother. But if you're doing it l'shem shamayim, to help your relationship, to help your people for the betterment of others, then it's l'shem shamayim, v'sofa lehitkayem. And your argument will have a beautiful and positive influence forever. Shabbat Shalom.